Facepalm America. I'm Beowulf Rockland. FacepalmAmerica.com is where you can go for more information on the show, to listen to past episodes, and to connect with us on social media. It's Friday, and so it's time to speak with Susanne Posel. She is the host of This Week Again. And if you have to listen to one podcast each week and want to get a review of the news of the week from a humorous and progressive perspective, I highly recommend This Week Again. You can find it on Spotify, iHeartMedia, and just about everywhere you get your podcasts. Susanne, welcome back to Facepalm America. How have you been doing this week?
This week has been a week.
Yeah, lots of stuff going on. Yeah.
I think as we get closer to the holidays, everything just becomes more and more apparent and more urgent.
Yeah, and less people seem to be like around to actually make things happen. Apparently,
yes.
There's some stratum of the American population that still takes vacations and time off, and those seem to be the key people to get anything done or anything paid or anything like that. And increasingly, for the final 2 months of each year, they seem to be in very sporadically available only once in a while during that time to actually process anything. And it's more and more frustrating. I used to, back in the late 1990s, when I was trying to reach people for guest bookings, like authors of books. Like it was funny because back then I would actually call, whatever it happened to be, Penguin, or before it became Penguin Random House, like everything, or Simon and Schuster, or Farrar, Straus and Giroux. I don't even know if that still exists, but I would call them in New York, and like they had their message machine had something that said, well, during the weekend, during the summer, like on Fridays, we're just closed. And that made me think, oh yeah, everybody's going off to the Hamptons. And I would like start, employing my, innate class anger at that. So I just
a reality you and I will never know.
I know. Have you ever seen the movie Grey Gardens? Like about those.
I did, but so long ago, my 46-year-old brain won't let me remember.
I was introducing my dad to that movie, and I sent him. It's actually on YouTube, and there's these two ladies, a mom and a daughter, who live in this like falling apart mansion. They're relatives of Jackie Kennedy, and but they don't have any money, so the house is falling apart, and they're rats and raccoons all over the place. But it's an incredibly like wealthy neighborhood, and I was looking at it as we were talking on the phone and seeing these $10 million and $15 million and $25 million houses, and thinking to myself, yeah, that's the kind of place that these guys take off to, or at least did 25 years ago. So anyway, that's my mindset, even though that applies to the summer when it comes to the end of the year, because like these people are always traveling and they're always going somewhere, and somehow, even though like I can't imagine a place on the planet Earth where it's not possible to have a Zoom call or send an email or whatever it happens to be, they somehow can't get back to you. So it goes.
Unless you owe them something. My reality is it takes them forever to get back with my questions. I'm constantly asking people for information, but if they need something from me, they are on me. Like, I have to shut off my computer and turn off my phone to get away from you.
Yeah, no,
it's leave me alone.
Yeah, no, it's enormously frustrating, and I think this permeates the class divide in America, like where the people at the top expect to be gotten back to immediately, but they simultaneously have no sense of responsibility to get back to other people, just in terms of the basic social mores. And over the course of like reaching out to people, I've seen that like get more and more exacerbated. It's just it's frustrating, but to me this is like exemplifies like the class divide in America on an interpersonal level. So
And to take it a step farther, we argue with each other. So you're going to yell at
Right.
the person answering customer service. That
Right.
person is probably paid minimum wage, which is very low
Yeah,
in their state.
I
And
know.
so the people who make these rules
Hmm.
don't ever have any accountability and live in this fantasy land where they can enjoy things like people answering them immediately when they ask a question and then
Yes.
taking weeks and weeks to get back to a person if they are the one responsible for sending information or giving information, which I think actually, if I'm going to segue this, would be perfect for what Ivanka Trump did this week before she
Do
even
it.
got to court.
No, 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 no.
She
Do it. Yeah.
she was arguing, trying to get out of testifying that she hasn't even worked for the organization in like forever, like before she worked for the White House.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, she lives in Florida and she's like not even in New York anymore. And then on top of that, like she has kids and she has to take care of them and she can't possibly find a babysitter in
She,
time
she has
to
to tell the
fly to
nanny.
New York.
She has to tell the nanny what to do. That takes a lot of time.
It's ridiculous that she pulled this. I'm a working woman and I just have a busy schedule trying to live my full life, having it all, and I just can't show up to court to answer questions for things that I did for my father to enrich him and eventually me.
Billionaire girl bossing takes an awful lot of effort. It really does.
But what got me the most is when she showed up to court because her father had already thrown a fit and got yelled at by the judge
Yeah.
and told to shut up. His her brothers took the stand and talked and then went out, and like Don Jr. was complaining about having to be responsible for his employees
Uh-huh.
jobs and the output of their jobs that he uses to do his job with. Like the person who hired you is ultimately responsible, the person who runs the company. That's another
Right.
thing, just as a side note, because I have ADHD,
Right.
the audacity of us to hold accountable the executives who hire the people who hire the people who hire the people.
Yeah.
God forbid. But and then Eric,
Ownership apparently like has no connection to taking ownership or taking accountability of what you do. It just means that you get to put all the responsibility and accountability onto some other person, and you get to take the profits. That apparently is the core at the structure of late stage capitalism in the United States of America.
yes. So like his whole argument, okay, that segues me into this.
Right.
Their whole argument, and they've admitted this. His lawyer, Abada, who loves to be on Fox News, who used to be on Fox News as a correspondent, is happy to be back. Uh, Admitted it on the steps of the courthouse, and he admitted when he took the stand.
Yeah.
He did doctor the numbers. He did change the numbers depending on what loan he wanted to get.
Mhm.
And we should be grateful. How many people, how many CEOs will lower their value and not be honest about how much money they make in order to get a bank loan. Like that is something that we should scoff at. Oh, of course that is the level of audacity. We are
Yeah.
dealing with people who don't understand what day-to-day life is for us. They have literally no clue. If you're making $200,000 or more, and if you're making 400,000 or more, you have no clue. But at 200,000, you start to lose your grip.
Yes.
Everybody
Yes.
else underneath, you know, you don't have a choice when you go, when you get summoned, when you get a subpoena, you show up in court or you get in trouble.
Yeah.
And
And
the
when you're
devil's
arraigned for a crime, typically that means you spend time in jail while you're waiting
yes.
to go through the trial and determine whether you are guilty or innocent. But that does not seem to be the case here. There's so many. It's incredible that even though we know and we've seen over the course of like since 2016, I mean, decades, if you have really been paying attention. And I know there are people like David K. Johnston who have been. The depth and the scope of the criminality involved in Donald Trump and his businesses and his presidency and his entire family. We know all of this, and we know that it's been going on for a long time, and yet still, because he is a wealthy white man in America, he receives the privilege that someone who did not make that much money, who did not have that much money, would never in a million years receive. And that is just absolutely galling. I mean, beyond the crimes which he has committed, and hopefully he will be convicted of, and which people are still saying that, oh, he shouldn't go to jail, even if you agree that he should be convicted, he shouldn't go to jail, and that's just wrong for the presidency, and it sets a bad precedent. It sets a bad precedent for him not to be imprisoned, because it continues this egregious class divide that we are all on one side or the other of, and about 99% of us are on the one side of it.
It perpetuates this idea that if you have a certain amount of money, you have access to bennies that other people don't. And if the law applies to us equally, then Trump should be awaiting trial in jail, because he has broken the the terms of his release with gag orders several times. If either of us did that once, or implied, if it could be implied by the prosecution that we did it, we would be in jail.
Yeah.
He is not, because there is a two-tier system and it benefits him.
Yeah.
So now they're like, oh, well, the Secret Service, if he gets because now the thing is, this last tantrum is that, with the gag order, he may actually, with Chuck-in, go to jail while he's awaiting his trial.
Yeah.
And the argument, well, the Secret Service wouldn't allow that because they have to be with him. So I guess they're going to be in the 4x6 with him then. I don't know, standing outside it.
Great.
Because like you said, if we don't set this precedent now, we are so far gone. The bar is so low that if we don't literally do the bare minimum, which is put people who break laws into jail or whatever position they need to be in based on the law, then we have no country. Literally, because our country is based on laws. We're not a theocracy. We're not an ethno state. I mean, I know that Mike Johnson really wants us to be, but we're not.
Yeah.
So we are based on laws, and those laws are there to protect us. We have states, which are mini countries, and then under the blanket, we have the United States government, which makes sure that all the states are doing what the Constitution says we should, and not what the Constitution says we shouldn't, or stretching it to make it, like the Second Amendment, but that's a conversation for another day. We need to hold this man accountable. He had classified documents in the shitter.
Yeah. Piled up around his golden bathroom. And people say, well, it's like there all sorts of people are going to rise up and blah, 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 blah. Look, if there are criminals who are going to follow this criminal, then we will deal with those criminals as eventually they were dealt with as a result of what they did on January 6th, 2021. But the longer we wait, the worse it's going to be. And if we had started, in the 80s and the 90s and the aughts and the teens to prosecute on a regular basis people, corporate malfeasance, and sent CEOs to jail, rather than waiting for them to periodically destroy our economy, as they certainly did in 2008, 2009, then we wouldn't be in this situation, because there wouldn't be a precedent for people being able to get away with all of this shit. And it's because they know that they can, under the current system, that they continue to do it. I mean, it's interesting, because again and again over the course of the years, I have heard that, well, the idea of the death penalty is supposed to be a deterrent. That mean, you're going to be put off from like committing some